All right, are you ready to get spooked? Today we're taking a deep dive into Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird,
Oh, a classic.
but we're focusing on the mysterious figure at its heart, Boo Radley. He's like that
Or
spooky story every town seems to have.
the one everyone whispers about.
Exactly. But how much of it is just that?
Hmm.
A story. Like small town lore gone wild.
Right, because everyone's got their version.
And that's where the Radley place comes in.
Those boarded up windows, overgrown lawn, it's practically begging for spooky stories.
It really sets the scene, doesn't it?
Totally. Makes you think about the power of a place, how it can almost breathe these stories.
And remember, this is the American South, 1930s.
A time and place steeped in its own kind of darkness. You had the Great Depression, racial tensions.
It's almost like Lee uses Boo, whether intentionally or not,
Yeah.
as a kind of symbol for all that unspoken anxiety.
Absolutely. And think about those early descriptions of the Radley place.
Like when they say the house died, the moment Boo was shut away.
Oh, so good. That's classic Southern Gothic right there.
It blends the real and the supernatural so well, you can't help but ask, what's truly scarier, a man? Or the society that creates these stories about him?
That's what makes Lee so brilliant, though.
Totally agree.
She doesn't just tell us Boo's misunderstood, she shows us how that happens.
And how easily those misunderstandings can take root.
Exactly. Just look at the incident with the scissors.
Ooh, yeah.
You've got Miss Stephanie, the town gossip, spinning this whole yarn about Boo stabbing his dad.
Talk about nightmare fuel.
Total nightmare fuel. But then you have Atticus, voice of reason, as always.
And he tells Jem to, what was it? Mind his own business.
Oh, and that line, I get chills just thinking about it. There are other ways of making people into ghosts.
Chills every time. Like
Yeah.
Lee's reminding us that the monsters we dream of can be just as scary as the real thing.
And you know what gets me about that other ways line? It's like, it's not just about Boo or that time period, you know?
Sure.
Haven't we all seen that happen? Maybe not to the same extreme, but that whole idea of rumors and judgments.
It makes you wonder, was shutting Boo away protecting him from the world? Or was it the other way around? Was that the cruelty?
And Lee leaves that question hanging, which I love. But what we do get are these glimpses of Boo,
Through the kids' eyes, no less.
and their imaginations are already working overtime.
Oh, absolutely. Think about Scout and Jem's schemes to lure Boo out.
Classic childhood antics.
Remember the tire?
And the note through the shutter.
It's hilarious and terrifying at the same time.
Just like childhood, right? Makes me think about all those dumb things we did as kids. Because we were curious, but also scared.
Did you have a Radley place growing up?
Oh gosh, yeah. There's this abandoned house down the street. We were convinced it was haunted.
See? Every town has one, which is why I think Boo Radley still resonates.
Totally. He taps into those childhood fears and that sense of wonder.
Exactly. But as Jem and Scout grow up, their view of Boo starts to change too.
That fear gives way to something more complicated.
It's like those early acts of kindness, almost like he's trying to reach out.
Yeah, it starts subtly. Do you think it was intentional from the get-go?
Hard to say. But remember the gifts in the knothole.
The chewing gum, the pennies.
It's almost like Boo saying, hey, I'm here. I see you.
And he picked those things out specifically for them.
You're right. It wasn't random.
There's a thoughtfulness there that goes against everything the town says about him.
And don't forget, when Jem's pants get mended.
Oh, yeah. Left all neatly folded on the fence. And what about the fire?
Miss Maudie's house going up in flames.
And Scout's got that blanket draped around her.
A small act, but huge in terms of showing he cares.
The thing is, they have no idea it's Boo at the time.
Talk about a reveal. But Lee's a master at that, slowly peeling back those layers.
And we, the readers, are right there with Scout and Jem, starting to question everything.
Which, by the way, can we talk about Jem for a sec? He really matures in this part of the book.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's not just child's play anymore.
He defends Atticus taking on Tom Robinson's case, even when other kids give him a hard time.
It's like he's starting to see the world differently, just like we are with Boo.
Do you think it's Atticus rubbing off on him? That unwavering belief in Tom Robinson, even when everyone else.
Interesting. It really makes you think about the power of example. But, you know, where everything changes. Halloween night.
Okay, but before we get into that,
Because, oh boy, it's a big one.
you got to talk about Jem. He's starting to recognize the good in Boo.
You know, the same way Atticus does with Tom Robinson, even when the rest of Maycomb just can't see it or refuses to.
Or refuses to. And that's a big part of what the book's about, right? Judging based on appearances.
Or we're rumored.
Exactly. leading to all sorts of messed up conclusions.
It makes you wonder if Jem's changing view of Boo. If maybe that's influenced by Atticus and Tom Robinson, too.
Oh, that's a great point. Like, Jem's seeing the bigger picture here.
Right, it's about empathy and understanding, even when it's tough.
Okay, but for real, we got to talk about Halloween night.
Things get real.
The way Lee builds suspense, it's masterful. You can practically feel the darkness closing in.
As they're walking home from the pageant.
And those little details, the rustling leaves. Scout could barely see in her ham costume.
It's like we're right there with them, feeling just as vulnerable.
Totally. You're right there in their shoes.
And that's when it hits you, you know.
All that carefully built up childhood innocence, gone.
Just like that. It's like Lee flips the script. The whole time, it's the kids sneaking around. Right.
Totally. Like they're the ones invading Boo's space, projecting all their fears onto him.
Exactly. But on Halloween night, they're the ones in danger.
And it's not some made-up monster, is it?
No way. It's real. And it's coming from inside Maycomb. Talk about terrifying.
Because Bob Ewell, he's a whole different kind of monster.
Driven by hate and out for revenge.
And then, just when you think it's all over for Scout and Jem, this figure appears out of nowhere.
From the shadows, almost like something out of one of their stories.
And you know what's coming, but Lee still manages to make it suspenseful.
Oh, for sure. The way she describes it, you're on the edge of your seat.
Every little detail. Like, remember when Scout's talking about the rescuer's hands?
They were trembling.
Oh, man.
And how he sinks to his knees when she tries to help him up. It's like, this isn't some monster. This is someone who's been deeply affected by what just happened.
And that's when it clicks for Scout, right?
In that moment, she sees it's Boo.
Not the Boo of their games or the town gossip, but the real Boo Radley.
The one who just risked everything to save them. Talk about a twist you didn't see coming.
It's more than a twist, though. It's Lee challenging us to think about our own prejudices.
How quick we are to judge based on appearances or what we think we know.
And it makes you wonder, how many Boo Radleys are out there?
People we've misjudged or dismissed because of our own fears. It's a sobering thought, for sure.
Because To Kill a Mockingbird, it's not just some coming-of-age story.
It's about human nature.
The good and the bad.
And nobody embodies that more than Boo.
He's the monster and the hero. But that scene in Jem's bedroom, that's where we really see Boo's humanity.
It's such a simple scene, but so powerful.
Because Scout just sees him.
Not the recluse, not the scary story, just Boo.
Hey, Boo. Just 2 words.
But they speak volumes.
Years of misunderstanding and fear just melt away.
It's like Scout breaks down all those walls that have been keeping Boo trapped.
And in that moment, everything shifts, doesn't it?
Totally. It's like we're seeing Maycomb through Scout's eyes for the first time.
Fresh.
New.
And it makes you want to do the same, you know?
See the world without those preconceived notions.
Recognize the humanity in everyone.
Even the ones we've been told to fear. Which brings us to the big questions Lee leaves us with.
Because she doesn't tie everything up neatly, does she?
Not at all. She makes you wrestle with it.
Yeah.
Like, could Boo's story be seen as a story of resilience? Despite everything, he never loses that capacity for good.
And he puts himself on the line for the kids.
Talk about the human spirit enduring. It's incredible.
It really makes you think about those we tend to overlook, you know? The ones who don't quite fit in.
Totally. But Boo, even though he's hidden away, he becomes kind of a moral compass for the whole story.
That's a good way to put it.
His actions, even though we don't see them directly at first, they show us the cracks in Maycomb's idea of justice.
And how dangerous it can be to just accept things the way they are. Which reminds me of Atticus's big lesson, you know?
Oh, you mean the walk a mile in his shoes one?
Exactly. You never really get someone until you see things from their perspective.
And that's empathy, right? Trying to understand the world through someone else's experience, which Scout, she totally does that in the end.
Without even realizing it half the time.
It's instinctual. She sees Boo, really sees him, and all that fear just disappears.
It's a simple, hey, Boo, gets me every time.
It's like the smallest gestures can be the most meaningful, you know?
Totally. And think about it. For most of the book, Boo's seen as a threat. But through Scout's eyes, he's the opposite.
He's the protector. It shows how easily our own fears can distort things.
And how important it is to question those assumptions, right? Because like To Kill a Mockingbird shows us the truth is rarely simple.
It's messy, complicated, and Lee doesn't shy away from that.
It's what makes it such a powerful book. It stays with you. Every time you read it, you notice something new.
I know what you mean. It's
Yeah.
those little details, those hidden layers.
Exactly. Lee's a master at that. And the way she brings those big themes together. Race, justice, human connection.
And it's still so relevant. Can you believe this book came out over 60 years ago?
Crazy right. But those themes, they're timeless.
It's like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Makes this deep dive all the more important, don't you think?
Absolutely. It reminds us that what happens in Katie, To Kill a Mockingbird, those lessons, they're not just for Maycomb.
They're for all of us. It's like a call to action almost.
And just like Atticus, we got to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard.
And like Scout, be open to seeing the good in everyone.
So as we finish our deep dive here, I want you to take this with you. The next time you meet a Boo Radley out in the world,
Someone who seems different, misunderstood.
remember Scout's words. Hey, Boo! You never know what you might find. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.